Cloud engineer or network engineer, two careers that sound completely different on paper, but are way more connected than most people realize. And if you are not careful, choosing the wrong one in 2026 could be the difference between a career that is full of opportunities or one that slowly boxes you in. Hi, I'm Suleiman. I started in tech more than a decade ago, making just $18,000 a year. Today, I run my own companies across consulting, software, and education. And through my education company, I've helped more than 900 IT professionals, engineers, and career switchers master cloud and AI, including all of these students who have gone on to land roles at big companies like AWS. Today, I want to break down both of these careers in terms of what each role actually looks like day to day, the salaries that you can expect, and where each one is heading. By the end of this video, you will know exactly which one to choose in 2026. Let's start with network engineering. Network engineers are the people who make sure that IT systems can talk to each other. Every time that you send an email, stream a video, make a payment online, data is traveling across a network that an engineer has designed, built, and also maintains. So what does a typical day actually look like for a network engineer? Well, you might start your morning reviewing alerts from overnight. Something flagged unusual traffic on one of the network segments. So you investigate. Is it a misconfiguration, a security concern, or is it just a spike in legitimate usage? You dig into the logs, trace the traffic, and figure out what happened. Mid-morning, you are on a call with the infrastructure team. They are rolling out new servers for a project and they need network connectivity set up, VLANs configured, firewall rules updated, making sure that the new system can communicate with the right services and nothing else. So you're planning that out, documenting the changes, and coordinating the maintenance window. After lunch, you might be physically in the data center. A switch needs replacing, or you're running cables for a new rack. You are labeling, patching, verifying connections. This is the hands-on work that requires you to be there in person. And then maybe in the afternoon, you're troubleshooting. A team reports that an application is running slowly. You start checking it. Is it a bandwidth issue, a routing problem, a DNS misconfiguration? You are investigating and trying to figure out where the bottleneck is and how you can fix it. This is obviously a technical role which requires problem solving, and as far as like the ecosystem in tech is, it's a critical role that makes everything work. So in terms of salaries, this is obviously depending based on your location and your experience, that sort of stuff, but you're looking at $70,000 to over $100,000, and then of course, as you get more senior, you can push well into the mid six figures. Now, let's take a look at cloud engineering. And I think the easiest way to start with is that cloud engineers do a lot of what network engineers do as well, but it's just in a virtual environment that's accessed through code instead of cables and in-person work. Instead of physical servers in a data center, you're working with virtual infrastructure that runs on platforms like AWS, Azure, or Google Cloud. You're still designing how systems connect. You're still thinking about security, performance, and scalability, but you're doing it through a screen, through code, and at a completely different scale. So what does a typical day look like? You might start your morning reviewing a pull request from a teammate. Basically, someone in your team has written code that defines an entire network environment, the virtual private cloud, VPCs, the subnets, the security rules, the load balancers, all described in a file. You're reviewing that code the same way a software engineer would review an application, checking for mistakes, security gaps, or things that could be done more efficiently. Mid-morning, a development team needs a new environment for a project that they're building. Now, instead of ordering the hardware, which is obviously super expensive and having to set it up and you have to wait for weeks, as a cloud engineer, you can write the code that spins up the infrastructure in minutes. Servers, databases, networking, security, all created automatically and consistently every single time. After lunch, you might be working on a deployment pipeline. When developers finish writing code, it needs to go through testing before it gets released to real users in production. This is just to ensure the code isn't buggy and works properly and there aren't any glaring security errors. And this is especially prevalent in 2026 because all of the AI coding tools and the AI slot. So what you do to counteract this is build an automated system that makes the testing happen and allows code to go from a developer's laptop to running into production without anyone having to do any sort of manual reviews or deploying any files or clicking any buttons. In the afternoon, you could be looking at cost and performance. You could be consulting to a client about their cloud infrastructure changes, looking at usage, right? Analyzing whether resources are being used efficiently. Maybe some servers are running 24/7, but only need to be running during business hours, and you can save some cost there. When I was working in one of my old jobs as a cloud engineer, we would actually shut down all of the instances over the weekend because nobody would be working on them. And if they are running, then you're obviously paying for them. So I wrote some code for lower environments that are not production focused. And when I say shutting down environments, right, I mean lower environments like test environments that are not being used and development environments that people aren't using on the weekend. Obviously, you would never shut down production, right? Because they have active users running and applications running. So I wrote some automation code that will run at 5 p.m. on a Friday, which would shut everything down. And then another piece of code that gets everything up and running Monday morning when everyone would be back working. As a cloud engineer, you're also super important between technical and non-technical teams. So your ability to communicate in this role is integral. A common misconception with cloud engineering is that you spend a lot of time behind a laptop coding, right? Of course, that's part of the job, but it's not programming. And especially if you're part of a small team, you are expected to have way more skills than just coding. And when compared to network engineering, there's plenty of networking, security, and working with systems. But the way that you interact with it is fundamentally different. Everything is defined through code. Everything is automated, and you're not tied to a physical location. It's a pretty remote-friendly role because network engineers are generally expected to live close to the data center that they're working with in case they have to go in when something obviously can go wrong. Salary-wise, cloud engineers comfortably earn 6 figures a year, and you can specialize in cloud security, DevOps, or platform engineering, and they'll be earning way over $200,000 a year. In fact, I saw a role on LinkedIn for a cloud engineer at Apple earning beyond $380,000 a year. Now, there is something that I found a lot of people aren't talking about, and I've touched on this a little bit already, but I need to emphasize it because it's seriously overlooked. And I don't know why, because it's really important, especially if you're already a network engineer. Networking is a massive part of what cloud engineers do every single day. And that means two things. Firstly, having networking expertise and experience is generally valuable when it comes to applying for jobs as a cloud engineer. It's not something that works against you because it's actually the foundation that everything in the cloud is built on. Cloud engineers who understand networking deeply are significantly better at their job than those who don't because they understand what's actually happening under the hood. And this means that moving from network engineering to cloud engineering is what I say is one of the most natural career switches across technology. It's not like you're starting over or throwing away years of experience. A network engineer learning cloud already understands things like subnets, firewalls, routing, DNS, load balancing. There's plenty of network engineers that I'm helping right now inside of my Cloud Engineering Academy, so I get to see this from the inside. And these guys, they have a big advantage because their skills are transferable and now they're applying it in an environment that gives them more reach, more flexibility, and ultimately just more career options. Someone completely new to cloud will have to learn most things from scratch. And that's not to say that it's impossible because I've helped people from non-technical roles and non-technical backgrounds go and land 6-figure cloud roles as well. But it just means it's going to take them a little bit longer. That is all. So let's talk about where these two careers are actually going because this is where the difference really shows up. Traditional network roles are projected to decline over the next decade, while cloud infrastructure, security, and platform engineering are all growing between 15 to 25% annually. Network engineering isn't dying. I want to be very clear about that. Companies still need networks and they will always pay. But the job market, the salaries, the innovation, it's all moving towards cloud engineering because of the insane investment that we are seeing into AI infrastructure right now. Big tech spent more than $320 billion in 2025 alone on AI and cloud, and things aren't slowing down anytime soon. AWS is projected to spend $200 billion in 2026 on AI and cloud infrastructure. And usually where all the investments go is also where the growth and opportunity is. As they say, follow the money, right? And not just that, there are also a few practical differences that compound over time. As a network engineer, your work is often tied to a physical location. Data centers, offices, hardware. When something breaks, someone has to be there. That essentially limits your ability to find jobs typically in a local area like, let's say, 50-mile radius, which means the opportunities that you have available to you are far smaller, and the nature of the job means the ability to work remotely is virtually impossible, right? Because you're basically on site all the time. Whereas as a cloud engineer, your work lives in code and it's all done from your laptop. That means you're no longer competing for jobs within driving distance. You get the ability to compete on a global scale and access opportunities from anywhere in the world. For example, last week, I had a recruiter reach out to me directly for a role at Palantir, and the compensation was just under $1 million a year. In the US, right, even though I'm living in the UK right now, because I've got the skill set that opens me up to global opportunities. And then in terms of career progression, as a network engineer, it tends to be rather linear and limited. You are largely confined to networking roles, and that really limits your potential. It's well defined, but it's narrow. Whereas cloud engineering, you actually open up to multiple career paths. DevOps, SRE, platform engineering, cloud security, solutions architecture, AI and ML. Companies often use these titles interchangeably because they all draw from the same core skills. And that gives you flexibility to move in whichever direction that interests you. And then there is AI, which is reshaping everything right now. Every AI workload runs on cloud infrastructure. The big cloud providers like AWS and Google are essentially becoming AI providers, so being able to work on cloud infrastructure positions you at the center of this growth. So if you're choosing between these two paths today, as someone brand new to tech, I'd obviously go with cloud engineering. The demand is higher, the salaries are better, the career paths are broader, and the flexibility in terms of remote work and long-term optionality isn't even close. And here is the thing. You'll be learning networking anyway, because it's such a fundamental part of cloud. If you are already a network engineer, this is actually great news for you. You are not starting from zero. You are starting with a genuine advantage because networking is the backbone of everything in the cloud. Take what you already know, layer cloud skills on top, and you've got a combination that's in serious demand. And if you really want to future-proof yourself, once you've built that cloud foundation, add AI skills on top, and there you go. As always, I'm rooting for you. I'll see you on the next one.